The letter, Alexander Hayes, never believed in family secrets. He'd spent 15 years in Philadelphia teaching classical literature to the children of merchants and lawyers, deliberately distancing himself from the Virginia plantation that bore his family name. The old Hayes estate had been a source of gossip, scandal, and whispered rumors in his youth, and Alexander had vowed never to return. He believed the past was a cage, and he had built his life around freedom. Yet, that freedom came crashing down one humid summer morning in the form of an envelope with a wax seal he didn't recognize. It had arrived by courier, the kind of method reserved for legal documents or old money summonses. Alexander frowned at the elegant cursive spelling of his name. Mr. Alexander Hayes. The handwriting was familiar, almost painfully so, though he couldn't place it immediately. Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper. The words were short, deliberate, and chilling. Come to the estate. You need to know the truth. Alone. Midnight. There was no signature, no indication of who had sent it. The address, however, was unmistakable. The Hayes estate in Virginia. Alexander's hand shook slightly as he held the note. Memories he had long buried clawed their way to the surface. The grand oak doors of the plantation house, the smell of damp earth and old wood, the servants' quarters hidden behind dense groves of trees, and the sense of something unsaid lurking in every corner. He had left that world behind with determination, telling himself that the past was a chain better broken. But curiosity, that dangerous companion, gnawed at him. Who would dare summon him after so many years? And what truth could possibly justify returning to a place he had promised himself he'd never see again? He tried to push the thought aside, lecturing himself on rationality. It could be a prank, he muttered, or some eccentric distant relative seeking attention. Yet, deep down, he knew better. This was personal. It had to be. By the evening, he found himself pacing in his Philadelphia apartment, unable to sleep. The letter sat on his desk like a silent taunt. Shadows from the gas lamp flickered across the walls. And for the first time in years, Alexander felt the old pull of the plantation, as if the land itself were calling him back. The next morning, he booked a train to Virginia, trying to mask the unease building in his chest. Every mile closer to the plantation seemed to pull back the veil of time. Memories of laughter, arguments, and secrets flooded him in disjointed flashes. He remembered the warnings of his father, long gone now, murmured just before his death. Some doors are better left closed, Alexander. Some truths never ready to be known. The train rolled through the countryside, past rolling fields and clusters of dark forest, each mile seeming to whisper reminders of a childhood he had fought to forget. He stared out the window, gripping the edge of the seat, trying to steel himself for whatever awaited him. By the time night fell, the Hayes estate loomed on the horizon, dark and foreboding. The house seemed frozen in time, bathed in moonlight, its long windows like watching eyes. The great oak doors at the front were as imposing as he remembered. He stepped off the carriage and felt the humid Virginia air press against him with the scent of pine and decay. He approached the front steps, hesitant, the envelope clutched in his hand. Something about the silence of the estate was unnatural. The windows were dark, not a flicker of candle or lantern. He sensed movement inside. Footsteps. A shadow slipping past a second floor window. "Who's there?" Alexander called, his voice betraying the tension he felt. Only the wind answered, rustling the leaves of the great oaks surrounding the house. A sudden creak from the front door startled him. It was ajar, as if waiting for him. The letter hadn't lied. Someone wanted him inside. But who? And what truth had been buried here for decades, waiting for him to find it? Alexander took a deep breath, gripping the letter tighter. Every instinct screamed to turn and run, to retreat to the safety of the life he had built. But a stronger, more insistent force pulled him forward. The need to uncover the secret that had haunted his family for generations. As he crossed the threshold, the darkness of the estate seemed to envelop him, swallowing him whole. Somewhere deep within, the faintest echo of his father's voice whispered, "Are you ready, Alexander? The truth will change everything." And with that, the front door slammed shut behind him. Alexander is inside the haunted Hayes estate. The secret that drew him back is still unknown, and the shadowy interior promises danger and revelations, shadows of the past. The hallway of the Hayes estate stretched before Alexander like a cavern of memories and whispers, the moonlight filtering through the tall windows cast long, jagged shadows across the polished wooden floor, which creaked beneath his every step. He could feel the weight of generations pressing down on him. Brennan, an invisible gravity pulling him into the dark heart of the house. Alexander's eyes adjusted to the dim light, tracing the outlines of furniture shrouded in dust-covered sheets. A chandelier hung above, cobwebs threading between the crystals like delicate veins. The air smelled of old paper, wood polish long faded, and something else, something metallic, almost iron, like that made the back of his neck prickle. He moved cautiously, letter clutched tightly in his hand, wondering if anyone, or anything, was watching. The house was silent, yet not empty. Footsteps seemed to echo behind him, yet when he spun around, the hallway was deserted. As he ventured deeper, he noticed portraits lining the walls. Generations of Hayes men and women stared down at him with cold, imperious eyes. One of the portraits, a painting of his great-grandfather, seemed almost alive. The man's gaze followed him, stern and accusatory, as if judging Alexander for daring to return. A sudden sound, a soft, deliberate click, made him freeze. A door at the end of the hall, previously closed, had shifted slightly. His heart raced. "Hello," Alexander called, his voice barely above a whisper. Silence answered. Then a low creak of movement from inside the room. He approached slowly. The door opened with a reluctant groan, revealing a study untouched by time. Stacks of yellowed papers, ledgers, and leather-bound books covered the desk. Dust motes floated in the moonlight like tiny specters. On the far wall hung a large painting of the estate itself. But something was off. Beneath the painted surface, faint scratches hinted at hidden compartments. Alexander's gaze fell on a small wooden box on the desk, sealed with the same wax he had seen on the letter. His pulse quickened. The box felt alive under his fingers, pulsing with a weight that seemed heavier than its size. With trembling hands, he lifted the lid. Inside was a bundle of letters, tied together with a fraying ribbon. The top letter bore the same handwriting as the summons, though the ink had faded with age. He unfolded it carefully. "Alexander, if you are reading this, then the time has come. The truth of our family is not one of wealth or honor. It is one of shadows, of deeds hidden to protect the estate and its name. You must know what was done and who is responsible. Trust no one, not even those who call themselves kin. Begin in the south wing. A. The signature was a single letter. A. Alexander's stomach churned. Who could it be? His cousin, long thought dead, a distant relative, or someone who had been here all along, watching from the shadows. His gaze drifted toward the south wing. The estate had been enormous, a labyrinth of rooms, many of which he had never explored as a child. Memories bubbled up. He recalled sneaking through the estate at night, hiding from servants, feeling the thrill of forbidden freedom. But this was different. This was no childhood game. Something real, something dangerous awaited him. Alexander's mind raced. The Hayes family had long whispered about the vault, a hidden part of the estate where secrets were kept. No one outside the family had ever seen it. Some claimed it held old debts, records of the estate's dealings. Others suggested darker truths, hidden passages, forbidden alliances, and perhaps even crimes that would shatter the family name if exposed. He clenched his jaw. He had left this world behind for 15 years, but now it seemed fate, or something else, was dragging him back into it. He couldn't turn away, not now. The pull of the estate, the weight of his lineage, and the cryptic letter demanded action. Steeling himself, he made his way to the south wing. The floorboards groaned underfoot, echoing through the empty halls. Every shadow seemed to move, and every whisper of wind carried with it a hint of accusation. Alexander paused outside a heavy wooden door. The brass handle was cold beneath his fingers. He took a deep breath, forcing his mind to focus. Inside, the room was dim, lined with old trunks, shelves of brittle books, and what appeared to be a small, locked cabinet. Dust coated everything. Yet the air smelled strangely fresh near the cabinet, as if someone had been here recently. Alexander knelt and examined it. The lock was intricate, clearly meant to deter casual curiosity. His fingers traced the pattern, remembering the lessons of patience and observation from his years teaching classical literature. Slowly, methodically, he began to manipulate the lock. A faint click echoed in the silence. The cabinet door creaked open, revealing a series of bound ledgers and documents. Names, dates, transactions. It looked like ordinary estate records. But as Alexander flipped through them, a chill ran down his spine. Among the dry text were references to people who should not have existed, unnamed laborers, undocumented visitors, and transactions that hinted at more than mere business. And then he found it a single name repeated over and over, each time in connection with a strange, almost ritualistic notation. Elias Hayes. The name struck him like a thunderclap. Elias had been a family member, yes, but Alexander had always been told he had died young, lost to illness. Yet here he was, inscribed over decades of secret entries, as if alive, present, guiding events behind the veil of history. A sudden noise made him spin around. A shadow flickered in the corner of the room. Alexander froze, realizing he was not alone. Someone, or something, was in the south wing with him. And then a voice, low and deliberate, cut through the darkness. "So you finally came back." Alexander's heart stopped. He knew immediately that this night, this estate, and this family secret would change everything. He thought. He knew about the Hayes name. Alexander discovers hidden documents and a mysterious presence, hinting that Elias Hayes, thought dead, may still have a role in the estate's secrets. The hidden ledger, the voice lingered in the shadows, low and measured, like the echo of a memory long buried. Alexander's pulse thundered in his ears as he strained to locate its source. The room seemed impossibly dark, though the moonlight spilled through the windows, illuminating the dust in thin, trembling beams. "Who's there?" Alexander demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. His hand hovered near the letter he still clutched, a lifeline of guidance in the midst of this unknown. A figure stepped forward. At first, Alexander thought it was a trick of the light. But the figure solidified into the unmistakable outline of a man, middle-aged, tall, with sharp features and eyes that gleamed with something Alexander could not name: recognition, accusation, and almost predatory curiosity. "You know my name," Alexander whispered. The man nodded slowly. "I know it. Yes. And you know mine." He stepped fully into the moonlight. His face was pale, almost gaunt, yet familiar. "I've been waiting for you, Alexander." waiting for the moment you'd return. Alexander's mind raced. The letters, the ledgers, the notes of someone called A. It had all led here. But who was this man? And what was he waiting for? I don't understand, Alexander said, trying to hide his fear behind a mask of reason. Why now? Why send the letter? What is all this? The man's lips curved into a shadow of a smile. The Hayes estate keeps its secrets well. But secrets, they have a way of finding their heirs. He gestured toward the cabinet, where the hidden ledgers lay open. And you, Alexander, are the heir it has chosen to confront them. Alexander's eyes darted back to the ledgers. The repeated name, Elias Hayes, haunted him. Elias, he's dead. At least, that's what we were told. The man's expression darkened. Dead, perhaps. Or perhaps someone wanted you to believe that. The truth is more complicated than you imagine. Elias did not vanish by accident. He was removed, hidden. And in that removal, he left behind a trail. A ledger that speaks of deeds that would shame the Hayes name if revealed. Alexander swallowed hard. The weight of his family's history pressed against his chest. 15 years of distance. 15 years of refusing to engage with this past now seemed meaningless. He had returned to uncover the truth, and the truth was already here, alive and watching him. The man stepped closer. You have to understand, Alexander. The ledgers do not merely record the estate's business. They chronicle the manipulation, the alliances, and the eliminations. Every hidden transaction, every person erased from the public record, it is all here. Alexander's stomach churned. Eliminations. The man nodded. People who were inconvenient to the Hayes legacy. And Elias, he opposed it. He tried to expose certain truths, tried to protect those who could not protect themselves. But he was silenced, and in silence he left clues. Clues only someone from our bloodline could read. Alexander took a step back, feeling as though the room were spinning. The estate, the ledgers, the letter, the man. Everything was converging toward something he could not yet grasp. Why tell me this now? Alexander asked, voice trembling. Why not leave the past buried? The man's gaze was unwavering. Because the estate has awakened again. There are others who want these secrets for themselves. People who would exploit the Hayes name for power. You've been summoned because you are the only one capable of understanding what Elias left behind, and the only one who can prevent the past from repeating itself. A sudden noise, a shuffling sound from the corner of the room, made Alexander spin. Another shadow flickered across the floor. Someone else was here. Someone waiting. The man followed his gaze and grimaced. We are not alone. They have already begun their search, and they will not stop until every trace of Elias's work is destroyed, or until we are. Alexander felt a cold sweat break across his forehead. The letters, the ledgers, the cryptic warnings, all of it now made terrifying sense. This was not merely about family secrets. It was about survival, about protecting a truth that someone would kill to conceal. The man placed a hand on Alexander's shoulder, firm and steady. If you wish to understand, you must follow me. There is a place within the estate, hidden for generations, where the ledger's deepest truths are kept. There, you will see what Elias tried to reveal, and why it cost him everything. Alexander hesitated. The idea of descending further into this family labyrinth was frightening. Yet the pull was irresistible. The estate, with all its shadows and secrets, had claimed him once, and now it demanded his full attention. I'll follow, he said finally, determination hardening in his chest. Show me. The man nodded. Good. But remember, what you find will change how you see everything. Once you cross this threshold, there is no turning back. Together, they moved toward a narrow staircase hidden behind a faded tapestry. Dust rose like ghostly smoke as they descended, the air growing colder with each step. Alexander's mind raced with questions. Who else was in the estate? What had Elias discovered? And, perhaps most terrifying, what horrors awaited in the shadows below? As they reached the bottom, a heavy door came into view, reinforced with iron bands, and a lock that seemed ancient as time itself. This, the man whispered, is where the ledger speaks. Step inside, and you will begin to understand the true legacy of the Hayes family. Alexander placed his hand on the iron handle, heart hammering. Beyond this door lay the secrets of generations, truths some had killed to protect, and the destiny of a family whose sins refused to stay buried. With a deep breath, he turned the handle. The door groaned open, revealing darkness beyond, and the faint glint of candlelight illuminating a room that promised revelation and danger. Alexander begins to uncover the hidden truths of Elias Hayes and the estate's secret ledger. The danger is real. Others are searching, and the family's darkest secrets are about to be revealed. The Vault of Shadows. The iron door swung open with a deep, resonant groan, revealing a narrow staircase that descended into the very bowels of the Hayes estate. The air that rose from below was damp, carrying a faint metallic tang and the scent of aged parchment. Alexander's heart pounded as he followed the man, the one who had introduced himself only as into the darkness. Each step echoed ominously against the stone walls. Alexander's mind raced with questions. Who else might be in the estate? Who had sent the cryptic letters? And what did Elias Hayes know that had to be hidden so desperately? The candlelight flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed alive, whispering secrets that had lain buried for generations. Finally, they reached the bottom. The staircase opened into a cavernous chamber. Walls lined with shelves, stacked floor to ceiling with ledgers, documents, and crates. The room was organized with meticulous care. Someone had clearly been here before, cataloging the estate's darkest secrets. This, said in a low voice, was the vault. Elias's work is here, hidden from all who would see it destroyed. Every ledger, every secret, every record that could bring shame, or worse, is in this room. Alexander's eyes widened. He stepped forward, brushing dust from one of the ledgers. The leather was worn, the pages yellowed with age. Symbols, names, and dates filled the margins. Cryptic annotations that seemed like a code only the family could decipher. He picked up a ledger at random, flipping through pages filled with transactions, alliances, and mentions of unnamed figures. Then he froze. Scrawled in the corner of one page was a single name repeated over and over: Marcellus Grant. Alexander's blood ran cold. Marcellus Grant had been a prominent figure in Virginia, known for his influence over plantations, banks, and politics. But why was he connected to the Hayes estate? And why had Elias hidden references to him in a ledger no one else had ever seen? Noticed Alexander's focus. Marcellus Grant, he said quietly, was not a friend of the Hayes family. He was a predator, a man who sought to control every estate in the region. Elias discovered what he was planning: exploitation, disappearances, and manipulation. Elias tried to stop him, but he trailed off, and Alexander felt a chill run down his spine. The implication was clear. Elias had died because of what he knew. A sudden clatter echoed from the far end of the vault. Alexander spun around, heart racing. Shadows shifted, and he realized they were not alone. Someone had entered the chamber. "Who's there?" Alexander called, his voice steady despite the fear gripping him. A figure emerged from the shadows, a man tall and broad, his face hidden under the